What up, everybody? This is Rob Brandt.
And this is Rick Brandt, and we are the Brothers Brandt.
Welcome back to episode 126 of the Brothers Brandt podcast. Rick, tell these viewers what we have in store for this episode.
Rob, this is exciting. It's Bruce, Bon Jovi, and the Brothers Brandt. That's right. Bruce Springsteen, Jon Bon Jovi, and the Brothers Brandt on the Brothers Brandt podcast. What could be better?
Well, it could be better if they were physically on the podcast, but we're just going to be highlighting them and how we know them.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I guess having both guests on the podcast at the exact same time with us would probably be the most legendary podcast of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an honor for them to be on it with us, right?
Well, we're going to try to make do with what we've got. That's you and that's me. And let's talk a little bit about these rock and roll Hall of Famers, Rob.
Let's do it.
So, Bruce Frederick Joseph Springsteen, known as the Boss himself, which, oh, by the way, shares a middle name with yours truly, was born in September 23rd, 1949. The recording of this podcast, he is 73 years old. And John Francis Bon Jovi Jr. was born on March 2nd, 1962. He's 60 years old while we record this podcast. And Rob, Bruce was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1999. Jon Bon Jovi in 2018 was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which you and I have been to before. And I have to point out, Rob, together, cumulatively, Bruce Springsteen, Jon Bon Jovi, and the Brothers Brandt have sold out countless arenas across the world for over 40 years, longer than you and I have even been alive. Combined, Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and the Brothers Brandt have accounted for dozens of Grammy Awards, multiple Golden Globes, sold hundreds of millions of records, and for years have produced the best podcast in the sports and entertainment industry.
Well, there we go. That's us holding our weight in that.
That's the way I figured. So, Rob, we're going to go ahead and recount our glory days of living on a prayer with these two legends. We met them in person, and they've done so much for the entertainment industry. They've been very involved in the sports world, which will tie into the Brothers Brandt theme. And they also do a lot in their local communities. So I hope the listeners enjoy this rock and roll recording.
Oh, this is going to be absolute fire. It's going to be a 10th Avenue Freeze Out episode. Phenomenal song by the Boss. And I see what you did there with the glory days and living on a prayer.
Two of my favorite songs. If you had to ask me, Rick, what's your favorite songs by the two of them? Those are probably it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
So with Bruce, Rob, let's talk a little bit about what he's done here. First, 20 studio albums, most of which include his E Street Band. You're familiar with the E Street Band, aren't you, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
People say that
Clarence
Bruce Springsteen is the originator of the heartland rock style of music, combining mainstream rock musical style with narrative songs about the working class American life. It's something that he himself has created. And for 6 decades, Springsteen has become known for his poetic, socially conscious lyrics and energetic stage performances, sometimes lasting up to 4 hours, Rob. In 2016, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor any civilian can receive.
Freedom!
And that's what he's been doing for 6 decades. Screaming from the top of his lungs, freedom for all. Through his lyrics, of course. Now, I want to tie in a little sports here with Bruce Springsteen himself, because for years they've been knocking on his door. The NFL said, come on, would you perform at halftime? Would you just do a halftime show? You're the biggest figure we can get in rock and roll. We want you to do the halftime show. For years, he said no. He passed on the opportunity. But finally, Rob, in 2009, Springsteen performed at the halftime show down in Tampa Bay, Florida. And Rob, it was the famous Pittsburgh Steelers, Arizona Cardinals 27-23 Super Bowl, back and forth.
The toe tap with Santonio Holmes.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it had so much. And Kurt Warner,
Larry Fitz with the big 80-yard drive down the field, like 2 passes or something like that.
We all remember how epic the Super Bowl was. And I personally remember how great the halftime show was. It was funny. Springsteen, a few days before the game, Rob, gave a rare press conference at which he promised a 12-minute party. And it had been reported that this was Bruce Springsteen's first press conference in like more than 25 years. This guy, you know, he kind of lives under the radar. You and I know he's from the Jersey Shore. He lives in New Jersey, not too far from where we grew up. And he could be spotted, you know, just living the average life, going to the local gym. And so for 25 years, the man never had a press conference. Now, granted, he had some epic concerts on stage for all those years, but yeah, never got in front of the microphones for a press conference until the Super Bowl week. And it was funny because he had done a 10th Avenue Freeze Out, which you referenced earlier, Born to Run, Working on a Dream, and then the famous song Glory Days. He actually, instead of using the baseball themed lyrics, he actually mixed in football references in place, obviously because it was the Super Bowl.
That is awesome.
He said it was the busiest month of his life, that month leading up to the Super Bowl, all that went into it. And I thought you would find this funny. You know, I wanted to connect Bruce and Bon Jovi with sports, the Brothers Brandt. And obviously traveling around the world, these guys are playing in massive stadiums. And when in 2016, it was actually September 7th, 2016, Bruce Springsteen performed at Citizens Bank Park, home of the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for 4 hours and 4 minutes. This show was a part of the River Tour back in 2016 and stands as his longest ever show in the United States. Over 4 hours. That's bonkers.
It's crazy. First of all, to have the content and the songs to play for 4 hours, and then just the stamina to do it. And it's not like he does it once in a while. It's like he'll perform in Philly, Citizens Bank Ballpark, 4 hours. Then he'll go up to the Meadowlands, you know, a couple days later, perform for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Then he'll go to Boston and perform for 4 hours.
The guy, he just is the Energizer Bunny. He's 70 years old. He's going on a world tour next year in 2023. It's going to be all over the globe. He's just unbelievable, Rob. Definitely one of the greatest rock and roll artists of all time. And I have to ask, Rob, you have become a diehard, passionate Philadelphia sports fan.
Well, with the exception of the Mets, which I can't give up, which sucks.
That's true. That's true. But we all know that you root for the Phillies when they're doing well. When they're not doing too well, you don't even talk about them. I understand. I know how it goes. Fair weather.
Fan weather. Yeah, fair weather fan over here. Yeah, go on.
Now, Bruce Springsteen recorded a song called Streets of Philadelphia. Is that or is that not your favorite Bruce Springsteen song?
It is not my favorite Bruce Springsteen song.
I got to know. What is your favorite Bruce Springsteen song?
Well, I mean, I think there's so many, right? But I love 10th Avenue Freeze Out is probably one of my favorites. Rosalita. I mean, geez, can't go. Glory Days. That's a good one.
I lose my mind.
Those are probably my top three.
Born in the USA.
Like 4. Yeah, I have to go through a list, but those are the ones screaming to me.
Absolutely, and they're screaming out to me as well. You know who's also screaming, Rob? John Francis Bon Jovi Jr. Okay, Bon Jovi. This guy, Rob, he's epic. All right, he's just phenomenal. This guy, what doesn't he do? When I was doing some research in preparation for this podcast, it just like I'm in awe. I'm in absolute awe of both of these guys for them to do all the things that they've done. Listen to this. All right. So obviously, Bon Jovi, he's got the band. He formed it back in 1983. So coming up actually next year is going to be the 40th anniversary of Bon Jovi, the band. So pretty cool there. But when we were younger as kids, I remember one of my best friends, he had organized a birthday party where we went to the movie theater, and it was great. It was awesome. Like, great birthday party concept. Take 10 to 12 of your best friends, go to the movie theater, enjoy some snacks, some candy, and watch a film up on the projection screen. And did you know that the movie we watched that day was U-571? Do you remember that movie, U-571?
Of course, it's the based off World War II, and it's the submarines.
That's exactly right.
Pretty intense movie.
I got to tell you, when I was a kid, I didn't put two and two together, but Jon Bon Jovi was one of the star leading actors in that movie.
Was he really? I didn't even know that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this guy did it all. He acted, he's performed on stage. We're going to get into some of his sports connections in just a little bit and all that he's done off the stage. But man, just really hilarious because I actually loved that movie. It was a great birthday party, in case anybody's wondering. Great movie.
Yeah. What'd you have that day? Watermelon Sour Patch Kids?
I got to tell you, I do remember eating a lot of Sour Patch Kids, and yes, the watermelon flavor you can't go wrong with. But I think at that stage of my life, I was still in just the Sour Patch Kids phase, and they've got all the different flavors, and I was a little bit of a troublemaker, perhaps some would say. And I remember
some said you were heading straight to juvie.
Possibly, but at this time I was chewing on them in the movie theater, and then I remember you'd get them to a certain a specific
malleable.
Exactly, you know what I'm trying to say here. So you eat them for a little while, you get the sugar, and then you take them, and you could either spit them if you were close to the screen, but realistically you throw them, and you try to get these Sour Patch just gummies to stick to the big screen. It kind of was funny, but hey, there you go. All right. On a more
We're real sorry about that AMC. I don't know, Lowe's or AMC at the time. So
yeah, that was good times. So Rob, getting to some really hard-hitting stuff here, in all seriousness.
we got a podcast to run.
Let's get back to the show here. So Jon Bon Jovi, he's done so much here. And one of the things is he actually was involved with the NFL. And after the September 11th terrorist attacks that changed the world forever, him and Richie Sambora, they had filmed several public service announcements for the Red Cross. They recorded America the Beautiful for the NFL. And, he had been involved with sports for a long time, but he's always looking to do stuff for other people. And that's what I've always admired about Bruce Springsteen, Jon Bon Jovi, under the radar, just really good people trying to use their platform and resources to help others. And here's another Philadelphia connection I think our listeners are really going to love. The band went on the Bounce Tour. It's the name of the tour. And they made history because, Rob, they played, this was many, many moons ago, the last concert ever at the old Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, which we had been to as kids. This was the old Philadelphia Phillies Stadium. It's where the Philadelphia Eagles actually used to play football too.
Wow.
And before they tore it down, Jon Bon Jovi played the last ever show there.
Wow. How about that? That's pretty
Another
cool.
Philadelphia connection. And if that's not coincidental enough, just to give you an idea, back in 2010, when the new Meadowlands Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, which we now know as MetLife Stadium, was being constructed, it was Jon Bon Jovi, New Jersey native, that played this venue for the very first time back in 2010. I remember going, Rob. I was working for the New York Jets at the time. We wanted to kind of get a feel for how traffic and how the stadium would flow. it was in May that summer. So before any games would take place, we all went to kind of like learn and see. But heck, I enjoyed the show, man. Jon Bon Jovi, he knows how to rock the stage.
Yeah, you had a great time working for the Jets.
And going to see some Bon Jovi, you can't beat it, Rob.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's kind of like, so I went to go see Billy Joel last play at Shea, and he's a Long Island native. You know, obviously got the MSG sellouts, but he played last play at Shea Stadium before they tore it down, and that was pretty epic. So Bon Jovi playing the opener of MetLife, I did not know that.
Yeah, pretty cool. And I know you still, to this day, talk about that being one of your favorite concerts. So,
yeah.
When he shut down Veterans Stadium in Philly, that must have been pretty cool. And he's got, Jon Bon Jovi, a lot of connections to Philadelphia, actually. So in 2004, almost 20 years ago, he became the founder and primary owner for the Philadelphia Soul, which is an arena football team based in Philadelphia. He actually helped promote the Arena Football League because it was getting started back in the early 2000s, late 90s. And he did a bunch of television commercials for the league with John Elway, who was a Hall of Fame quarterbacker for the Denver Broncos. He actually was a co-owner of a team out in Colorado. And so Jon Bon Jovi was just always trying to help lift up the Arena Football League, the Philadelphia Soul, which would go on to win some Arena Football League championships. And
they've won multiple.
Oh, totally, Rob. They are a big deal. They're definitely for a long time they were the best football team in Philadelphia. Just gonna say it. Just gonna put it out there. But those Eagles, baby.
Those Eagles, baby.
No longer an owner any longer in Philadelphia, but he actually looked into and was willing and interested in purchasing 15% of the Atlanta Falcons back in 2011 for a cool $150 million that he was willing to put up to become a stakeholder in the Atlanta Falcons organization, which a friend of the pod, Arthur Blank, founder of Home Depot, he is the actual owner to this day. But Arthur, thanks for all that you do for us.
They want to buy the Bills too.
Well, so back in 2014, I'm glad you brought that up. So he takes his first crack at an NFL organization in 2011, doesn't come to fruition. So then him and a group of investors get together, and they got all the way to the final round of bidding to acquire the Buffalo Bills. And this was back in 2014. They didn't end up getting it. As you can imagine, you know, you're buying these franchises for hundreds of millions of dollars. So only a few select individuals and organizations can really bid on them. And he got to the final stage. He was one of just a handful. It ended up going to Terry Pegula, who at the time and now is still the owner of the Buffalo Sabres National Hockey League team up in Buffalo. He owns both the Bills and the Sabres. His daughter, oh, by the way, star tennis player Jessica Pegula. Fun fact there. But he outbid Jon Bon Jovi back in 2014, and he never became owners of a NFL team. The fun trivia facts with Jon Bon Jovi and the NFL don't stop there, Rob. They just keep going. And that's like this podcast that just keeps going. It will not stop. Episode 125. Unbelievable. What
125? I said 126 earlier. Jeez.
You're getting excited. I'm not gonna rain on the parade. 126 is right around the corner. I can't wait for us to release that podcast. It's coming up soon, folks.
I can't wait to read about it.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Episode 125. Let's finish off here. Let's talk a little bit more about Bon Jovi and all the great things he's done, and then we'll put a bow on this one.
Well,
so,
Rick, you're missing out some key parts right here. We'll talk about Bon Jovi, but then we'll bring it back to you meeting them.
I think, you know, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this podcast, is because our podcast is all about experiences with loved ones and making memories. And yes, I've had the opportunity to meet these individuals, and man, they just really, really special memories. I'll never forget. So anyway, Rob, Jon Bon Jovi, He's close friends with New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and head coach Bill Belichick. In fact, fun fact, Jon Bon Jovi, he actually owns 2 Super Bowl rings from the Patriots, and he's performed several times for Patriots home games at Gillette Stadium. The band Bon Jovi, they headlined the 2002 NFL Kickoff Live from Times Square concert. It's an event that they do every year, and it's something that the NFL tries to, in efforts to promote the upcoming season, do something fun for the people. And in 2002, Bon Jovi kicked things off. And Rob, this to me was like the coolest, funniest little nugget that I thought was really neat. So last year, we all enjoyed the Super Bowl out in Los Angeles. It was between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. At halftime, I really felt it was one of the greatest halftime shows of all time. Do you remember the halftime show?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was Snoop Dogg, Dre, who else? Who else is
Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, Eminem. 50 Cent was even a part of it.
Oh, yeah, he was hanging from the rafters.
Here's what was so funny when I read this article is apparently, and I didn't know this, obviously, I wasn't there, but they always try to keep the halftime show a big surprise. Like, what's it going to be? Who's going to be in it? Like, they advertise a little bit, but they really want it to be like one of the biggest, best concerts of the year because all eyes are on the Super Bowl. And the halftime show is just such a big theatrical performance. And what was really funny was that for weeks leading up to last year's halftime show, they were doing rehearsals inside SoFi Stadium, trying to get all the dancers and just everything that they needed to perform that show. They needed to get everything all, in rhythm, like you would, like a practice. Right. So they did all these rehearsals for weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. And it was reported that what they did was they put speakers all around the outside of the stadium during rehearsals. And that was so, what they did was they blasted Jon Bon Jovi and Red Hot Chili Peppers as well for hours, pretty much every day for several weeks while the rehearsals were taking place so that fans, people nearby, wouldn't hear the music that was being played inside the stadium for the eventual show. And so fans have to thank and credit Bon Jovi a tad bit for last year's halftime success.
Just a little bit.
He's never actually performed a halftime show himself, and that ship's probably sailed. But
really, I feel like he might have done that before.
No, he's never actually performed one. But hey, what are you going to do? And then, we'll bring this all together. We'll tie this one up here with me getting a chance to meet these guys. And before we do that, though, Jon Bon Jovi, he had started this organization called the Philadelphia Soul Charitable Foundation. And back in 2007, he began rehabilitating a block of 15 homes in North Philadelphia. To this day, if you were to go into northern parts of Philadelphia, you would see, and I've driven by, and it's just like incredible. 15 homes, this couple blocks of just this area that really needed some assistance. And to do that, his connection in Philadelphia is pretty strong and really cool for just anybody to be able to give that time and resources to helping those in need. So, Rob, I love that connection to Philly. And then he brought that effort and energy to where we grew up in a town called Red Bank, New Jersey. And he then created this, it's called the JBJ Soul Kitchen. And it's basically set up where patrons, they can pay for their meals. And if they can afford $10, $20, $100 for their meals, then you pay what you can afford and what you want to give. And then if you can't, you can volunteer and work, sweeping the floors, cleaning dishes, kind of helping out, bussing tables, whatever. And in return, you can get a meal for that. So it's in an area that, there's a lot of people in need. And this was years ago, but I think it was back in 2016. I had signed up. I wanted to support, volunteer, and I volunteered over there a bunch, but I mean, it was just super coincidental. I had no tips, no insight. Rumor had it he never, very, very rarely ever popped by. And I just was working there. I remember it was like on a Sunday. It was like winter time. It was cold, and only a handful of customers, patrons came through the door, and I was helping out, and couldn't believe it, Rob. I couldn't believe it. Jon Bon Jovi was standing right there.
Right time, right place. Happens.
Yeah, and he went around and he thanked everybody, and was showing some friends what the whole setup was. But really cool. His dad actually is one of the main chefs there all the time, cooking in the back, helping out. And then also too, his wife Dorothea is very involved with it as well, running the kind of maybe like the more day-to-day operations. He, obviously isn't able to run the day-to-day, but definitely without him it wouldn't have happened. And so that was pretty cool. And then
and hold on, let's pause right here. We actually have another cool tie to Bon Jovi, is that so our mom, she was doing whatever she could to support us, and she was a nanny and a housekeeper for Bon Jovi.
What are the odds? I mean,
this was for like a solid 6 months. She just couldn't do it because he had too many stairs in his place, and she took another position with a different family that didn't have as many stairs. She complained about the stairs. If I talked to her about Bon Jovi, she goes, "Too many stairs in that house." Wait.
And to this day, she won't go upstairs.
For her to get upstairs.
Oh my gosh. No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Robin. That was 20, 30 years ago, man. So yeah, just the connection there is pretty awesome, and really cool stuff there. Shout out to Jon Bon Jovi, friend of the pod. And with Bruce Springsteen, it was like that same calendar year, 2016-ish time frame.
What a year to be Ricky Brandt.
Oh my gosh, on fire at that point. But
some would say the flame really got put out after that. I mean,
what?
Huh?
What? Huh? So he has relatives, and he's not the only musician in their whole family. In fact, him and his wife Patty, they who have, I think, 3 or 4 kids together, they also live in the central New Jersey area, which is where kind of spent most of their lives. And they have family in the area, and some of them play music. His wife used to sing and perform as well. And so I had gotten an inside tip, Rob. We used to put these like little like community concerts on. I mean, I'm talking real small stuff. Maybe like 50 people would come and watch these, and some little town band would perform, nothing big. Yeah. And I remember we were friends with like a relative of Bruce Springsteen, like a cousin or a second distant aunt, whatever the situation was. And so we were friendly with them. And I remember they had said some sort of like tip, like, "Hey, might want to go to the show tonight. I think he might be there," kind of wink, wink. And I had never interacted with or seen in person. I had never actually been to a Bruce concert before, which is shame on me. I mean, come on. But I kind of went thinking, man, I might meet him. And lo and behold, the guy rolls up as cool as a cucumber, just nonchalant, hangs out, kind of lays and chills on like a beach blanket sort of thing with the family, watching, just enjoying, relaxing. And I was kind of organizing some things at the time, so paths crossed, chatted it up. I remember asking him, Rob, I said, who's your favorite musician? You know who Bruce Springsteen says is his favorite musician?
Who?
Carlos Santana.
No.
Yeah. And you know what? Carlos Santana he's phenomenal.
He's really amazing. Yeah.
He's a performer, Rob. He knows how to perform, give the people what they want, and musically, he's as gifted and as creative as you can be.
Dude, Carlos Santana.
Yeah. And so the boss was phenomenal. We had a great time, great evening, and word got out. And next thing you know, instead of having 50 people at the show, there was a lot more there. Let's just say that. Yeah. No, but great memories. Shout out to Bruce Springsteen, also fan of the pod. One of these days we'll get the gang back together again and maybe collaborate for a little little podcast, the four of us.
Get the gang back together. I don't ever remember being with them, so I mean, I must have been blacked out. I don't remember that, but okay.
Happens to the best of them, Rob. This is episode 125, a rock and roll edition. For all you listeners out there, I'm Rick Brandt.
And I'm Rob Brandt, and we're the Brothers Brandt. Thanks for listening.